Okay, so last week I posited that the Snyder Cut footage couldn't make the original worse. I also had what I thought were unlikely predictions.
Angels sing, everyone on Earth simultaneously comes.
What I didn't account for was that it would actually end up being better than fine, and that I would have to eat a little bit of crow, because I kind of liked it. Sort of. I'm Dan Umpton, and this is the Doomcast. Okay, so I have lots of thoughts, but let me go ahead and start by saying that I have been one of the more vocal critics of Zack Snyder in the past, despite really liking a lot of his early work, especially Dawn of the Dead. At the end of the day, here's what was good. Ray Fisher's Cyborg was the central character and had the clearest arc. Barry was less anxious and neurotic, but still too neurotic, in my opinion, to be Barry Allen. Maybe Wally West a little bit, whatever. His first scene with Iris was pretty cool and touching, and then she never showed up again. The design for Martian Manhunter looked great. The intro, a little clunky. Darkseid looked cool. The Omega Sanction, Omega Beams looked cool. Boom and Granny Goodness was there. Sexy for some weird reason. Steppenwolf and Apocalypse as a whole seemed like an actual threat this time around. When Superman showed up and just started wailing on him, I was legitimately pretty pumped. I mean, it was a pretty cool scene with the axe. Not impressed. It was all right. I didn't mind that. The whole narrative flowed better and felt pretty coherent. Even after 4 hours, going in with very low expectations, I was really engaged. What I didn't like, there were an abundance of slow motion sequences. There were also sequences that weren't non sequitur, but they felt very cuttable. I don't mind deliberate pacing at all, but it still felt like there was a lot of fat, a lot that could be cut. I still don't like neurotic, dumb Barry Allen. He can be funny without sounding obnoxious. Grant Gustin pulls that off, generally. I don't like Batman with guns. I don't like him actually killing or threatening to kill people, even the Joker. Batman doesn't do that stuff. I also don't like Jared Leto as Joker, but fine. I really like Henry Cavill as Superman. I always have. But I'm not really sure I like the way Superman is written in the DCEU most of the time. I don't think Snyder fully understands the core appeal of the characters that he is using. And I don't like that the only way to create a mostly coherent movie was to make it 4 hours long, for it to really just end up being pretty decent at the end of the day. For a full 4 hours, it should be biblical. And it certainly aspired to be that. It wasn't bad. I'm not saying it was bad. There are people out there acting like it was bad. Come on. It wasn't terrible. It was better than I expected, even rather by a long shot. And I'm glad that on the other side of a really terrible loss, that Zack Snyder and his supporters and his friends and his family got to see what he originally wanted and tried to do, and that he was able to dedicate it to his daughter. I think that's beautiful. But if I'm being honest, if I'm going to give it a letter grade, at best, I'm going to give it a B-. Realistically, maybe a C. Which, to be fair, I would give most Marvel movies too. If this was a movie about entirely different characters, which kind of feels like it is to me, it would be an objectively pretty good, very long movie. But it wouldn't be terribly important in the same way. I don't think people would be paying attention to it. The fundamental shifts in core character traits and motivation is really my biggest and most substantive objection to the Snyderverse. It feels like there are DC characters being written for a Marvel universe. I can't say that Zack Snyder is a purely garbage director. He's not. It's okay if you think he is. I just don't think he's a visionary auteur, and it's also okay if you think he is. But his plans for future proposed Justice League sequels sound wild. Batman falling for Lois Lane, an Injustice-style Superman heel turn. It seems like something that was written by a guy familiar with a number of DC properties, but few of them actual comics from their library. Other than that, I have no real beef. It does change things in several ways, though. Really passionate fans managed to get a whole movie pretty much re-released, and it somehow partly paid off. Whatever's done with DC's movies from here on out isn't quite as interesting as the fact that this is a fundamental reshaping of culture through popular demand. Between this and Sonic the Hedgehog, the internet proved you can bully a movie studio into re-releasing a better version of a bad movie, which, no doubt, I'd always prefer a tighter, better narrative. to a perfect scene-for-scene adaptation of character and story from any property, whether that's video game or whatnot. I'd rather a good story than an adaptation anyway. But it makes me wonder if DC and other studios in general will actually learn that lesson from this or anything else. I'm Dan Umphin, and this is the Doomcast.